David McFadden, Chief Curator at the Museum of Arts and Design in New York City. We have just celebrated our second year in our new home at Columbus Circle, and I'm here on my first visit to Australia. One of the works that I think has been a real surprise to our museum visitors is a new acquisition. It's 3 vases by the Russian artist Anna Franz. Anna Franz was interested in the way in which red figure and black figure vases in ancient Greece were used to tell a story, quite often about the Olympic Games and athletes and their feats. They depicted these scenes, of course, in static form. They were drawn very beautifully, but very statically on the surface of the vases. Anna Franz took 3 white blanks of a classical amphora form. The surface decoration is created by tiny video projectors, which project onto the surface of the vase one of the athletes from Edward Muybridge's famous motion studies, the first filmed imagery of human motion at the end of the 19th and early 20th century. So those play continuously, and instead of the static figure of an athlete, you have a living, breathing athlete being depicted on the vase. It's a totally new way of thinking about decoration, but it's also a way of making the history of vase painting come into the 21st century. We have been acquiring contemporary ceramics from around the world. And I have to say that our collections have focused on 4 countries in particular, which seem to be among the most active today. In the realm of Danish ceramics, we have wonderful artists like Bodil Mans and Michael Geertsen. We acquired a very large wall installation by Michael Geertsen 2 or 3 years ago. We also collect contemporary Japanese ceramics, not the traditional pieces, but the ones that are non-traditional. So we have marvelous works by Kondo Takahiro, who does these extraordinary glazes that look like dew is settled over these geometric shapes that he creates. The third country we collect in is British ceramics, and we have wonderful pieces by artists such as Edmund de Waal and Felicity Aliff, one of the new pieces that she has created in the last year, one of her tall totem pieces. And then last, we do of course collect American ceramics. And we're very pleased that there's a whole new generation of sculptors using clay who have made quite a name for themselves. People like Chris Antonman, who does figural compositions based on 18th century porcelains, but with a very wry and ironic and often political twist. People like Sergei Isupov, who uses the material to create his extraordinary self-portraits. It's a combination of the most beautiful draftsmanship in drawing and sculptural form. Those are the areas we've been collecting in, and at the same time, we have followed what's happening in the world of industrial design and how ceramics is being reformulated by designers around the world. Many of those artists were featured in an exhibition we did called Object Factory 2, which took the pulse on what was happening out there in the world of ceramics. The exhibition brought together about 350 works in total. Many of those, of course, were sets of things or multi-piece installations. But it looked at 3 different areas of ceramic practice today. One was the reuse of existing forms or techniques to create new designs. People that interacted and intervened, really, in an existing form. We have a marvelous piece by a Norwegian artist named Caroline Slott, who at the flea market purchased old-fashioned blue and white dishes with the landscape scenes in them. Using a water jet cutter, she began cutting out the landscapes, and as you stack the dishes up, you end up with a 3-dimensional theater through which you see the blue and white landscape reproduced in layer upon layer of dishes. We also have works in the collection now by a man named Paul Scott, who takes, again, existing blue and white. It seems to be blue and white is one of the reference points for a lot of these artists. He reglazes them with new images or with cloudy surfaces so that the pattern is barely perceptible. The third section looked at the cutting edge of technology and how it relates to ceramics, specifically porcelain. So we had works in that section by artists such as Michael Eden in England, who is using rapid prototyping techniques to remake 18th century and early 19th century Wedgwood wares in a whole series that he called Wedge Wouldn't wares. Or Geoffrey Mann, who takes sound patterns and air movement patterns created by normal everyday activities and translates them into an algorithm from which a rapid prototype model can be made, and then the ceramics cast from that. So we have in the exhibition and now in our collection work called Blow, which is the pattern created by his own breath blowing across the top of a cup of hot tea. And that ripple pattern becomes the actual form of the piece.